Hi, welcome to my podcast. Welcome to the Art of Feeling Better. The whole concept around this is for my passion, which is, as you know, mental health and well-being. And my journey over the last few years has led me towards education and how we learn, how we teach and how we learn. Because that for me has become my major passion and area of work, because I found that our mental health and our well-being in general, no matter where we're from, no matter who we are, no matter what stage of life we're at, seems to have been impacted massively by our learning experiences and around what, the way we've been taught and the way we learn. So I'm kind of winding everything back to the education system and what's happening currently with all the shifts that have been happening over probably certainly the past decade, since I've been dipping my toe in and doing work within schools. And I've met some brilliant friends along the way, and there's a collective now, as you know, of great people doing great things, and we're starting to build that momentum and start to co-create some really cool stuff. So I thought I'd catch up with you today and we'll have a little natter about your take on things from your background, being in education for as long as you have. Although you look fantastic, I might add. You look
I know.
good genes, I say. I always say that. People say that to me when we talk about being in the industry for 20 odd years, and people go, "Oh, well, thanks, I'll take that." You look fabulous. But
No, I think I've just come back from being away, so the colour I think helps to.
you don't really I know, right? We should take it while we can, shouldn't we? But having that kind of such a lot of experience and wisdom from teaching, from being in the system, and now kind of not so much on the other side, but doing something really innovative and different because of your experiences. So I just wanted you to, first of all, just share whatever you would like to share about your experiences, what's led you to do the things that you do now. I've not done much of an introduction in my little pre-bit because I want you to be able to do that. So just a bit about you, what you're doing, and how you came to be doing the amazing things you're doing now.
Oh, thank you, Jane. Thank you. Well, I'm originally from a very small farming community in South Wales, as you can tell by the accent, and that where I began my career within education. And I was very active within my community, where my parents owned a very successful business at the time, and it was drilled into me from a very young age about respect, loyalty, and how to remain private within things, and I felt back then, communities back in the 80s were very much your business owners, small towns, and the school was the hub of the community. And, we were brought up very much to respect your teachers. School was a very respectful place. So if I go back into what my teenage years, because I feel as if I've come full circle with education, if I'm honest. And I love primary school, but there was something in secondary that didn't sit well with me as a teenager. And I struggled to sit behind a desk. I struggled to spend hours going from one classroom to the other. And I found that I wanted to be up in the woods, jumping around rivers and stuff rather than being stuck, just being embedded things. And I thought, well, I'm never going to really, learn. Why am I going to use Pythagoras's theorems and things like this? That I just thought, when am I going to use it? And my mind at 12, 13 years of age was already sort of forward thinking these things. So school was a bit tricky for me to start with. And then I was one of those teenagers, I didn't know what I wanted to do in my career. So our careers advisors basically said that it was very limiting at that time.
Yeah.
So I was put back into the education system because I was good with working with children. So that was the only option that I was sort of given. And I felt that it would have been lovely at that point for somebody to have grabbed hold of me and just extracted my passions, and if outdoor was my passion and freedom was my passion, it'd have been lovely to have explored those. But, this was the 80s, early 90s, so it was a bit different then. So anyway, I got into my career of teaching and, I realized quite quickly in my first year, because I started in year one with 5-year-olds and I absolutely loved the creativity of it. But what I struggled with in that first year was going from one lesson to another. So
Right.
basically doing like a maths lesson, and then after the maths lesson, then might have gone into history. Now, for me, I felt like these children were 5 years of age. I didn't want to be going from one thing to another and categorizing teaching as it was. But we were very lucky that the foundation phase had come into Wales around that time, which gave us more opportunities to be creative. And the school that I was working in, the head teacher was amazing as far as listening to us, as far for new initiatives. So we then created the Leonardo themed thematic approach to school, which was fantastic because it enabled us to bring in all different subjects and create it as a theme rather than subject matters,
Right.
which was fantastic for those children that struggle to sit behind a desk. And I found that that was a beautiful start to the career when that sort of came in as well for us. But after a couple of years, then I went into mentoring newly qualified teachers. And then from there, went through my own struggles in life, and didn't really have the toolkit to deal with it. And at that time, I was doing my own transition. I went to Cyprus to work and to live on a military camp for a couple of years. And I had to deal with my circumstances around that time, which I didn't know how to. There was a lot of grief going on, and quite quickly, cut a long story short, I recognized and started learning a different way of understanding my own body and understanding my mind. So from that journey, and the only way I can describe it was a light bulb just lit up in my mind.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, we need to learn. We need to be able to have different toolkits, different people in our back pockets to be able to go, because not all one size fits all. And I did start my journey with counselling, and it was a good starting point. I had about 6 hours of counselling, but then I realized after that I was going around and ruminating over my grief, over the issues and problems. So thank you so much for it. It was a great starting point. However, I needed to draw in on different tools. I needed to learn, and I needed to learn what this grief was, what this pain was, what these emotions were, and to understand how my mind was working. So that's where the journey started. And roll on from there, 12 years on now. I started my business, and my business was started back in education to pass on the tools to teachers and educators around resilience and around learning and understanding oneself. From there, then I started having contracts in different arenas, and to date now we have trained over 4,000 educators. We have trained in our 6-day program 356 senior leaders and head teachers. We support challenge advisors, we coach, so quite heavily within the education sector. But equally, then we started stepping stoning into different arenas, political arenas, sports arenas, then went into the high net worth circles, and then now in the ultra high net worth as a confidential confidant within this arena. And I feel as if, because I've worked within military, maritime, political, sports, education, business, I feel as if now there's just been so many downloads of so many different sectors that it's just been amazing learnings. And the people that I personally coach now are just phenomenal people. And it just demonstrates that it doesn't matter who you are, where we are, what we're doing, each and every one of us has a mind. And each and every one of us will go through different stresses, pressures, more elevated than others. But at the end of the day, being able to have a strong, robust toolkit in our back pocket just enables us to help others. And for me, I think I specialize in language. And our tagline is learning a new language, the language of your life. So what sits in that is elevating emotional literacy within workplaces. And that's where we are. And I know we've spoken many a time, Jane, about where our work fits, and we're so complementary of what we do, from where you are and from our journey as well. And I do feel that our young adults, the leaders of tomorrow, I think they're going to need a very different toolkit, which we're learning, which we're understanding. As a society, we're starting to adapt. But I believe, for me, that especially for our secondary young adults, that schools and education still needs to, there's a long way to go for them, a long way to go to fit into this society now.
I think, I mean, you just, every time you speak, it lights me up because it just gives me that confidence that there's just some incredible work happening and it all relates. And for me, you've just hit the nail on the head that it's a universal truth. These concepts can be applied anywhere. So for me, that's why my sort of, when I flitted around, because trying to find where I fit for a long time, because my energy and the way I work was really appreciated in different settings, but I didn't really know where I was most valuable. until I had that penny drop moment of this is the same shit. This is the same shit. I could be in a corporate space supporting leaders, or I could
That's
be
the way
in
you
a tent.
interpret it, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
or
the
I could be in a tent with these people that have no home and nothing. And
yeah,
it's around. So for me now, being sort of a neuroscience coach, that brain body connection, translating all the jargon so people understand what the hell is going on, and it applies to everything and every situation. And that for me is part of that toolkit building. And just finding people like yourselves that are doing this work that complements it is just incredible. And Valerie said something last week. You'll love this. Valerie had like mic drop moment. It's like this is just sets it. It's brilliant. So she said, "It's not about our past; it's about their future." And it was a quote that she'd heard from somewhere else. And I thought, well, that just speaks about education for me in the schooling system. So many brilliant things happening. And I know people think that I'm always sort of slating the education system, but I mean that from the very top down, not the people in it and not the way it works.
no,
The fact that it's
yeah,
stuck in this post-war Victorian bizarre way. Everything
yeah.
else, everywhere, everything else has moved on and developed. The way we shop, the way we communicate, but the education system hasn't, and it's just harmful, really, really harmful. So it
And
has
it's,
to change, doesn't it?
I know, and it's amazing because our educators, like you said, on the shop floor, they're making the best of the situations they've got. But I feel that there's quite an undercurrent of just exhaustion from our educators. And, educators do not go into the role because they don't care. Especially primary sectors. Primary sectors are nurturers. We nurture these young little minds. But then when we get up to secondary as well, it's a different ball game. It's a different business, and we have to look at it in a very different way. Our young adults now they're needing different skills, different education, different way of thinking, and we're talking a lot about it, and awareness is coming out now, which is brilliant. We've been speaking about it for long enough, but I feel as if we've still got a long way to go. But I agree with you, Jen. It's coming from the top, but it's that culture change. But what is it going to look like? And this is the thing.
It's a shift, though, isn't it? You can feel, we've said this before, there is a definite shift, and it feels slightly less like pulling a mountain up another mountain like it has done for the past few years. I think all of a sudden, especially the last 12 months, even the last 6 months, I felt this real shift. And I think I mentioned this with somebody else that I was talking to, that it makes me sad that in my opinion, it's because there's no other options, because people have exhausted everything that they thought would work. And now people are like, right, we're going to have to look at something else. And then some of us that have been in this field for a long time are going, hello, we're still here,
Yeah,
still here, and
yeah,
we can help now. We can do something.
and I believe that we've dotted around the world, as many of us doing different pieces of beautiful work around the world, and just getting ready. We're all stepping into place now, ready to support and build that new network up. And I remember speaking to one of the mums not so long ago, and her son, he didn't enjoy school neither. And they're a farming community. He loved being on the farm. That's all he wanted to do, is just be on the quad, go around counting the sheep and the cows in the fields. And that was the only way you could get him involved in school at that time. And so he came out a bit earlier, and she went through the right channels and everything. And she even asked, if the school, for him to come back into the school to teach them about the land, to teach about how to grow plants, because the school had a beautiful garden there, but they couldn't see how it would work. And it was so disappointing, because this young adult was happy to come back to pass on the skills that he had. Now,
Much
the skill,
value from that person. It's not
so much value. He knew how to live off the land.
and we know we need that. We need those skills.
We so desperately need these skills, but it's also coming back to nature's. It's the skills that we've lost, which is beautiful now to start seeing it in small pockets of communities. And we're just coming back to learning about these skills that we so desperately could benefit from.
It will grow, I think, as well. And that leads beautifully into my next question. So I've got a couple of specific questions. And one of them was going to be around just to run through, because your program is just incredible. I know you do lots of different programs, but for me, the preparation for adult learning is like the key to what everyone needs and what I've seen in schools up and down the country for so many years. So will you just do like a whistle stop tour? Because I want to add a link in if anyone that wants to look at more, because I think that's the future, I think, for me, is the way you've put that together, and the the hope that I can feel from, oh, there's something big here that could really make a difference. So just give us a rundown on how that looks.
Yes, it's a quick synopsis of it. There's 400 minutes of content on this PAL program, and I believe that it's around the soft skills, raising emotional literacy, talking about emotional intelligence, and we've created in a chapter formation. So it's on a platform. It's self-guided, but equally mentors as well. It's great to work with the mentor, and that's where you see the real solidifying sort of learnings can pull together. And we've got, for the PAL program, we have 20 chapters, and each chapter has 6 sections in it. This is not a tick in the box for resilience. This is a curriculum, an online curriculum that can take up to 12 months to complete. It can feel a bit overwhelming for some, but there is no rush to go through it at all. If you were to spend, say, 30 minutes a day on it, you'd complete it in 3 to 4 months. But this shift and the change that we hear from people going through it, of how they now have more better relationships with their families, how they can start to communicate better, how they understand their boundaries more, how they can have eye contact when they're going into meetings, understand their core values, understand the inner conflict, the inner realms of the mind, how thoughts work, how our habits are formed. There's a whole chapter in there about habits and how leadership habits or leading oneself, how we are. So from there, we've also had it ILM certified, and it's the first time that the Institute of Leadership and Management brought their certification down to 16 years of age. They can then take the certification into the workplace with them. And we've also created e-portfolios to evidence their work, that they can speak to managers, speak to their bosses about how they've elevated their emotional literacy, and just understanding oneself a lot better as well. And when we've done the small group work, the rich dialogues that we've been having with these young adults have just been phenomenal. And just getting them to understand themselves. Why am I feeling like this? Why have I been triggered in that way? Do I speak to that person differently to this person? And it's just understanding what's done in them.
Yeah, self and the one and others. It's just what should be
Yeah.
the basis of education and learning, shouldn't it? Really, and every group that I've worked with in every kind of community, when we've done some sort of, we do lots of creative diagnostics, like what are the big problems, what are the issues, and this is what they put in there, and this is the solution. It's like, I don't know how to do this, I struggle with this. I'm like, well, this is literally the answer to all of this data that's come out of all my work, is that we need something like this. And there's as you know, my way of doing things, I've got my own platform I do in the community, but it's not a curriculum and it's not embedded in schools. But if you have that approach where actually this actually could be used as part of a bigger curriculum within schools, and to support teachers and their well-being as well, I think that's just like so exciting, the potential for that. And
Yeah, you say that, Jane, it was interesting because when we went through the test and learn phase, the teachers were they were saying, oh, we'd like to go through this. So we regurgitated it and did a teacher version. And we're currently going through the teacher version now in Wales. We've got 3 schools have taken it on board, and it is leading oneself. So we're all leaders in our own rights. And, as soon as you step into that classroom, you are leading that classroom. So we regurgitated it into the teachers. So, and the feedback at the moment's been beautiful as well. It's the same work, it is the same work, but we've just made it more teacher friendly.
I think that's essential. So for me, I've worked with students for years and years and years, and I stopped doing that just before lockdown because I could see that I was not having an impact, maybe to individuals. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity, and I'm proud of the work I've done, and I've changed some individual lives and I've had some great feedback. But it's not my purpose is to help shift things. And I couldn't do that while I was just in this horrible mess. And I thought, it has to be teachers. The teachers can't teach this stuff if they haven't experienced it, or if they are currently triggered by whatever they're triggered by, and I don't have the understanding of how the brain works and how, then they can't just teach it from a sheet because they can't apply it. So I really believe that that's the way forward, is how we can support and nurture and grow leaders within schools that have that sense of self and they can emotionally regulate, because what a difficult job it is without any support. So I think for me, that is the little key there. And then it becomes a culture shift, doesn't it? And then it filters down through the rest of the school. So I'm mindful of time because we're both busy ladies. So I've got a couple of questions that I'm asking all of my guests. So I'm going to link in or anything you want me to link in, we'll put on there so people can have a little look and some bit further research and get in touch if they want to get in touch with you. But my first question is, How can we change the world? What a big question. How, just your initial thought on how is it possible to change the way the world's going?
Yeah, oh gosh, there's so many. When we look at it, I think we just need to, I come back to education, and I think it's going to be a generational shift. And I believe that it needs to be embedded within universities in the teaching practice, so that you're going right into the teaching practice, also in schools, also within communities, because we've got many head teachers asking us if the program can go into the communities to support parents. Of course it can. It's the same thing. But then you need support with that, with the parents. And I believe that it's such a big shift that we're looking for to change that. We're always going to have conflict. We're always going to, as part of the way
Life, isn't
we
it?
live. And I mean, if we go back to, I spent some time with some of the Buddhist monks last year in Kopan Monastery, and it's amazing how they spend time every day debating. They do the healthy debates. And I feel that if we could learn these skills, that it's okay to debate, it's okay to have these conversations, it's okay to disagree, and it's okay to respect others' viewpoints. And I believe that as well, if we can start to teach these skills on a greater level, we could have a great, generational shift. But it would take a good 20, 25 years to change that.
But I think that's,
And
yeah, I completely 100% agree. I think that's why some of us are here, that particular purpose. That's mine for sure, is it has to come from teacher. That's why I'm so involved with education now, because that's the only way to do this big shift. It has to come from how we learn and how we teach the younger generations. That's the only way to shift it. And I think it's around emotional intelligence, isn't it? We can't debate and we can't do that when we don't know our identity, we don't have a sense of self, and we don't have a toolkit for emotional regulation. We can't. It's just conflict. So until those tools are embedded for everybody, we can't get to the point where we can have that sort of healthy, enriched conversations around different.
there's some countries also, they've taken up the yogic philosophy as well, which will start to embed within education over the next 5 years. So, we are moving in the right direction.
And I think that it will snowball. I feel like it's going to snowball. It's been a real slow push. And I think things are starting to gather momentum a little bit. And I think it will, like you say, it's going to take a while for things to shift fully. But I think we're going to see in the next few years a decent shift. And hopefully people's well-being and people's health will improve because of that. So we're definitely on the right track for sure. Now I've got a question, which is the other end of the spectrum. I'm asking every single person that I speak to just to give one little tip, just something that you might do in your everyday life, something that can help people to feel better in the moment. So whether you've got any kind of practice that you do or any kind of top tip, just for anyone who's watching to maybe think about putting into their life just on the daily.
I would say there, because my focus is around language and the way we speak to ourselves, recognizing the thought patterns and how that impacts our reality. So one of the coaching questions that we teach within our programs is just to start to challenge some of the narrative that we speak. So if you can catch the way you're either externally speaking or internally speaking to yourself, and challenge it by asking just a simple question: is that my reality, or is that a belief?
Beautiful.
And even that gets you to stop and think.
So challenging your self-talk. And you know what? We could have planned it, because I've literally just finished filming a course on that for Mojo School on kind self-talk, positive self-talk. So how perfect. But it's brilliant. It's just language for sure is a powerful tool, isn't it? How do you speak to yourself? Is it based on a belief? And where's that belief come from? Yeah, love that. And people can do that every single day from this point onwards, and it doesn't cost anything. It's just a little bit of a reframe, is it? A bit of a
And
shift.
they can just, and sometimes it is your reality. And if it is the reality, right, what can I do in this moment that's going to help and support me? But if it's a belief, challenge it. Where did it come from? Do I need to be thinking in this way?
Is it relevant to my life now? Is it good for me? Is it bad for me? Yeah, I love that. Oh, I love that. That's deep, but really simple, isn't it? Really simple. And life
Yeah.
changing. Like,
Yeah. And another nice one is stop, pause, breathe. Stop what you're doing, pause the mind, and breathe.
yeah, power of the pause all the way. That's just
Yeah.
in itself one huge thing you can do. It's difficult in the moment, but when you've got tools, then you can do that. And obviously, breath is a tool, but power of the pause was a big lesson for me that I have to put into practice. It's changed my life for sure, actually, just being able to pause, assess, sit in the moment, and you make very different decisions, don't you, when you do that?
Yeah, definitely.
Language and pausing, beautiful. Last question, and I'm really impressed with myself on timing because I think we'll get it spot on. Do you have a song that really lights you up and makes you feel good? Because I'm also doing a Spotify playlist. So we're building it, we're co-creating a Spotify playlist. So everybody I'm asking, throw in a song. And if you think of another one, just message me, I'll put that on because there's no limit to how many we can pop on. But if you're
Oh,
having a down day and you want to pick yourself up, what do you reach for? What tune do you like?
oh, do you know what? There's a couple of there's if you want a power ballad to make you feel stronger, or you want a dancey sort of song, I would say the one that gets me really sort of thinking about things is Sia. Is this Stronger with Sia?
Yeah,
Is it
I
that's a
yes.
strong song, isn't it? And then which is the one I do like then, a bit more dancey one upbeat is Bruno Mars, what's his song?
Bruno Mars always makes you feel good, doesn't it? Which one?
Yeah, but they're feel good factor ones, aren't
Yeah.
they? And
Chemical.
with and which is the one with Will Smith and the Summertime with Will
Oh,
Smith.
I love, do you know, that's
Nice.
one of my favorites, and I've not put it on there, so you've just reminded me. I'm going to listen to it.
And Mamma Mia is always a good one, isn't it? Dancing
Oh,
Queen or something like that just gets you up dancing. So
and
yeah,
you can't feel sad or angry or stressed when you have that. So this playlist, I'll send you the link later. It's building beautiful. There's some pretty gorgeous tunes, and I've been able to listen to some songs that I'd never heard of before because people are making suggestions on social media, and so I'm getting a nice new set of tools that are good for feeling good. So I'm going to put okay. So I'll go back over this recording to make sure I don't miss it, but definitely Bruno Mars. I don't know which one, so you'll have to have a think and send me which one you think it is.
yeah, I'll have to think about what the name. I'm not very good at it. If I hear a song, I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
that's
you
the
know that's the one you like, but the Sia one for sure. I love that one, and yeah. Mamma Mia. We'll put Mamma Mia on there. We'll put Sia, and we will put what was the other one that you'd said that?
Summertime. Is it Will
Which
Smith?
time? The one that I love that I forgot. I'm going to do it now before I forget. Tracy, thank you so much. We finally got to pin down a date to do this. Really
No,
good. I think we'll have more conversations. I think because there's so much to talk about, isn't there? There's so many things that we can discuss. And yeah, I'd love to chat with you again if you fancy it in the future sometime.
yes, definitely. And thank you so much for asking me as well.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thanks, Tracy.